Welcome fellow Dreamcast fans. On this channel I plan to create content to unlock your full potential of your retro gaming console experience using the original hardware with newer accessories, and in this video being focused on the Sega Dreamcast is a great pleasure to do so. Now this video only came around as I just recently created a video regarding getting an affordable plug and play HDMI solution for this console to be compatible with modern TVs. By all means check that one out after you've seen this one and you will get a good thumbs up from me. But whilst creating that video and looking back on some previous comments with them asking what is the difference with whatever cable I use, what's RGB all about, what's the difference between 50Hz and 60Hz, what is 480i and 480p all about, and I'll just use these cheap composite to HDMI converters I picked up on Amazon for £10, and that is fine to get it up and running through HDMI, which for me personally that is just a big fat no, stay away from these. I also recently checked out a local video game and anime con where behold there was a charity retro gaming setup, which is always awesome to see and it's for a good cause. But when I checked out how all these consoles were connected to these HD TVs using cheap composite cables, that's when my feelings started to hurt, and all these supporters were just seeing these awesome consoles displayed in perhaps the worst way. So what is the right setup for this console to hook up on my TV? Of course everyone has their own preferences, which I'd love to hear in the comment section below, but in this video this is just my own opinion. But it came to my attention to help Dreamcast fans understand in this short simple way of the nature of the Dreamcast supported video and audio output, in which hopefully will give you a better understanding to make the most of your Dreamcast experience. You can also find my playlist link in the description box below that covers supported content for this console and more. So if you can, hit that like and subscribe to help support this content. So let's go. This console released in 1999 over here in the UK, and PAL Zones has some very unique video output features, making it the better console to pick up in the 6th generation of consoles, even more so in the PAL area. For a basic understanding why this is, here is a quick simple downscaled comparison of specs of the winner in that generation, the PlayStation 2. You will see by its main specs the PlayStation 2 wins in horsepower, not to mention its other capable features. But in honesty, the gap is not that big at all, making it a very close competition on what these consoles could handle. But where the Dreamcast wins hands down is with this video output RAM, doubling that of the PlayStation 2, wherein simple gave developers the process to include higher detailed texture mapping, whilst giving them an easier method to do so, which then gave the Dreamcast a sharper, more detailed rendered image with those texture mappings. Here is just one sample where you can notice the detail on the ground mapping, and a pretty awesome title, Grandia 2. But mostly it's from the video output connectivity and compatible games to utilize a higher resolution output to use an alternative display from at the time would have been a traditional fat tube TV over to a PC computer monitor, in which Sega back then did provide a official VGA box, and of course there are a lot of third-party ones out there that you can pick up pretty affordable these days. So the question is, what is VGA all about? To quickly understand this console is compatible with these original analog video outputs that you would connect to a fat tube TV back in the day. This is the aerial, the composite, S-video and the RGB SCART, giving you a 480 interleaved signal, 480i. When it comes to rating these connectivities to have the best quality output, the RGB SCART would become on top. The key difference between, for an example, the composite and the RGB SCART lies in how they transmit the video signal. The composite uses a single signal to combine the colors and the brightness information all in one cable, where the RGB SCART will transmit the red, green and blue colors components separately. This results in the RGB SCART providing a higher quality, sharper image with more vibrant colors compared to that of the composite. Another factor to take on board of the PAL Zone release console is that this was the transition time of video games on consoles to include 60Hz support, where at least in the UK consoles prior was only supporting 50Hz. Only the NTSC regions were supporting 60Hz only. CRT TVs, at least what I know of in the UK around this time, would state if they were compatible with 50 and 60 or just 50Hz. You will see this at the back of the TV. There was also this weird time in China around the British occupation with this rare edition of the NES, which I recently saw at a gaming event in the UK. It was compatible with switching between both modes. This was due to the different regions only supporting one or the other. Well, I just thought that was pretty cool. So anyway, using video cables from aerial up to RGB SCART on a CRT TV will give games an option of selecting one or the other. To find out the benefits of using 60Hz, I did create a video a while back, if you'd like to know more on this subject. Now there is a good handful of titles that only support 50Hz. This list can be found on Game FAQ created by Shining 3 Master. I'll put a link in the description box below to find out which ones only support this. But as mentioned earlier, they also included a VGA connectivity, so the console could then tap into the monitor supported higher resolutions, unlike the traditional fat TVs at the time. PC monitors were the only commercial method way to support what we call these days HD, which you could then hook up to utilize somewhat of a PC experience with its built-in feature-first internet and built-in Windows CEOS, which titles could then be ported straight over from PC. In which this business partnership, I believe, was its downfall, as the Sega director from US then transferred over to Microsoft to create Xbox. I believe that this was done so that Microsoft could stay on top, as Sega was treading into a market that was heavily controlled by them, especially with having all these built-in features. But that is just a personal rant I will perhaps leave for another video sometime. But back to the main topic, what is 480p mode all about that this VGA can tap into? And why is it better than 480i? To put it simple, 480i video output, meaning 480 resolution, processed interlaced, means that the image is displayed by scanning alternative lines of the image, which is a method to display on older fat TVs, in which a interlaced image will then be converted to a single frame, thanks to how fat TVs were designed in the first place. This can exhibit some flickering and artifacts, especially during fast motion, where this low resolution interlaced signal being processed on a HD TV will become a lot more apparent. 480p progressive mode displays by scanning all lines of the image in sequence, creating a complete frame, resulting in a smoother, clearer image. And that is how HD TVs were designed to handle an image, just because of its digital nature. Both 480i and 480p have the same resolution. It's just all about how it is handled to get the best picture out. On the grand scale of resolutions, especially from recent TVs handling up to 4K nowadays, 480p is way down there, so best make sure you get a good clear signal coming out of your console. Now say that you had your monitor back in the day with your adapter to use 480p 60Hz. Not all 100% of games would support this, but you can check which games do by simply turning back over to the case, and you will see on Ready to Rumble that there is a VGA compatible logo. And then we turn over to Code Veronica and there is no logo, so this will not support this, which will then prompt you a loading screen saying it's incompatible. But not to worry, around 80 to 90% of all games for the Dreamcast library are compatible with VGA. I came across this trick as well thanks to a YouTuber by Adam Koralik a while back, where he had the trick to support unsupported games by simply booting up the Codebreaker disc, and whilst on the main screen you just simply swap out the disc into an incompatible game and it's all boot up fine. There were these two games that I struggled a fair few years back to work in VGA, which were Bangai-O and Skies of Arcadia, but thanks to TempMN and Wriggles, which I found on Dreamcast Talk forum, they have managed to fix this by applying a codebreaker code that they developed themselves, or even a patch that you can utilize on the disc image. So when it came to this higher resolution support in the entire 6th generation of consoles, the Dreamcast was the only home console to support this in the PAL area. The PAL PlayStation 2 did, but only a very limited amount of games supported it. Another unique factor, especially for its time, that it did not even matter what region your console you purchased it from, is that 480p was supported. And for the UK, this was, at least what I know of, is the first home console to support higher resolution and have the highest compatibility, thus making more recent simple affordable plug and play HDMI adapters a pleasure to work with and get up and running. Also, this is just one of its reasons why it is well known that the Sega Dreamcast was ahead of its time and has a brilliant, continuous supported fanbase and a thriving indie gaming scene. I recommend now checking out the Battle of HDMI adapters for the Sega Dreamcast, a video that I recently created. So of course this is only my own opinion, and I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I'd love to hear your support for this awesome console in the comment section below. As always, if you like this video, hit that button. If you want to support, subscribe, leave your comments below. Catch you lot on the next video.